Please read the disclaimer. Some housekeeping before we get into the video, talk about XRP, talk about the crypto market. The Senate has canceled Monday vote ahead of Snowmageddon. By the way, to all of you that are affected by this huge snowstorm that is happening in the United States of America, stay safe. Hopefully you're using this time if you have, work is canceled or something like that. It is the weekend though, so a tough break there. But if you are snowed in, use this time maybe to learn some new things, to watch some videos about XRP. But it seems that the members will now likely trickle in ahead of Tuesday late afternoon votes, leaving the fate of the Senate Agriculture Committee crypto market structure markup unclear. She asked committee spokesperson whether the markup was still on and was told there's nothing to announce yet. In the meantime, new amendments have been filed to the text released Wednesday, including the bipartisan Credit Card Competition Act from senators that prohibits credit card networks and certain credit card issuing financial institutions from requiring network exclusively on credit cards. So the bill is seeing another bump in the road here. The Clarity Act. It's a tough break right now for the crypto market. If the price action is terrible, nothing's moving. So now the weather is blocking the senators from talking about the bill. It is what it is. Sometimes life just throws at you another thing. This is how the crypto market feels a little bit right now. But we do have a big week coming up upon us. We have on Tuesday, we have job openings, ISM services. Remember, this is something that we have talked about, how it's going to be very, very important to see where the ISM is on the manufacturing. Sorry, that's on Monday. ISM manufacturing needs to get over 50. Currently, it's still 47.9. That's the expected. And so that's going to be very, very important. And of course, on technical difficulty time. I just noticed the date. That was on February 4th. What I was looking for? What was I looking for? It's not refreshed. Where's the next week? Why don't I get next week? Anyway, the next week, right? The next week is here. Okay. It was doing me dirty. This is what I wanted. FOMC, I was surprised that ISM was this week as well. Usually it's the beginning of the month. We are at basically 95.4% probability that the Fed is going to keep interest rates where it is. So listen, from the past 3 years or so, 4 years or so that I have been every single month covering the Fed decision, the probabilities usually hit. Meaning that if it's over 90, it's a done deal. And it doesn't seem that there's going to be a surprise and that they reduce interest rate. It still could happen. There's still a 4.6% probability that it happens, but it seems that they're going to wait a little bit. What could affect more is what the Fed chairman says. And Fed weeks are always very, very complicated, very tricky. Sometimes you see a run up into Wednesday. Sometimes you see a sell off into Wednesday. So it is going to be very interesting to see how this week specifically plays out, how the market reacts to what the Fed is going to do. There's not many Fed meetings left for current Fed chairman. And so we're going to see how this week plays out. It's going to be very, very interesting to see. And I think there's going to be more emphasis on what he says because the data, inflation is going down. Although there was just an article here on TV that in the US, things have become very, very expensive. I know that, I told you that, but I think inflation is, peaking a little bit and prices are stalling. It's still very expensive than where it was 2-3 years ago, but things are stopping, right? Things are pausing a little bit. So that's the silver lining, I guess. And you guys have confirmed it to me in the comment section. An interesting comment that someone left, Ian, I think is his name, said Brad Garlinghouse said at the WEF, the World Economic Forum conference the other day, that Ripple XRP are still busy building the final rails for XRPL to be incorporated into the heart of global finance, and the new partnerships and institutional adoptions are still being put in place. In a nutshell, they don't want XRP repriced to its true value until everything and everyone is at a level is in place. The price will be kept artificially low until they are ready to flip the switch. Now, okay, this is on one hand, maybe. On the other hand, this is a little bit wishful thinking, right? Just because when you look at the market, you can't expect, an asset of such a big market cap to act like a small market cap. Like there's always going to be assets that are moving, like this one, Key AIA, up 40%, right, today. It's a possibility, but when you have XRP that market cap wise is 116 billion, right? So for example, that one is 473 million, right? That's 200x larger, okay? XRP is. So fact is that on news that if the news that comes out is 40% of 100 billion, so it's a 40 billion potential value add addition to XRP, then that could happen. What kind of news would that need to be in order for XRP to move 40% in one day? By itself, I'm not talking about what the market is doing. Just in an isolated instance where suddenly XRP would move that way. Some people forget that it's a very big asset. XRP, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, they're very low probability right now that they are going to move such a big amount in a day. Remember, even when President Trump tweeted about XRP, it jumped about 20%. The president tweeted about XRP, right? And it only went up 20% in that day. So it's very, very hard for XRP to see a big movement. To say that XRP now is being suppressed because they're not ready, I don't think so. I think that just the price action right now in the crypto market is very, very low, very, very low interest, very, very low liquidity. And so when you have that kind of situation that not a lot of people are buying, not a lot of institutions are buying on chain, right? A lot of them are buying off market on OTCs. They're buying through the XRP ETFs, so that sometimes doesn't create the buying pressure that some people would have liked. And so then you're stuck in this situation that we are now. But again, remember, XRP can go very, very fast from 191 to 3.4. If that will make you much more happy that XRP is at 3.4 than it is at 1.9, then good for you. But for me, it doesn't really matter, in the long run. In the short term, of course, if I have a leverage position and it goes up 85%, then yes, my leverage position is going to make a lot of money. But if not, and I'm still, only long-term investing, then I'm in the same situation that I was in before because I'm holding XRP. I'm holding 1,000,000 XRP. I'm holding 1,000 XRP, depending on how much you have, right? It's still 1,000 XRP. To translate into fiat dollars or fiat money is, and then say, oh, that's the value of it, right? It's what's the word I'm looking for? It's fruitile, right? That's I don't think that's how you say it. Because if you're not selling, it's only on paper. Okay, so that's very, very important to remember. I'm going to continue to emphasize that because I'll say it also when we're at 3.4 or 4 or 5, hopefully in the future down the line. The crypto market or the XRP army would be much more happier. But I'll remind you that unless you are departing from the asset, it's only on paper, the value. Okay. So yes, are they suppressing the price? Maybe, but I don't think it's an XRP only problem. I think it's a crypto market problem right now, and not an XRP XRP price problem. So that's very, very important to remember. Some more interesting news here. The SEC, by the way, before we get into that, I just want to remind you, oops, I wasn't supposed to push that button. I just want to remind you that this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence before you decide to invest. Very, very important. This one is better, right? Where we go? Here we go. I don't have my green screen right now, so that's why it looked funny. Technical difficulty time. Saturday, we have a little bit more fun, right, on the videos, because, we're snowed in, although here it's beautiful today. no snow here. But maybe soon we'll get different kind of the okay. So before we get to the SEC, I'm gonna just share with you. We talked about this last night, but there's a little bit concern right now here in Israel that yes, I live in Israel. That we're going to have another like 2-week vacation. That things are going to heat up with Iran again, that the US is going to attack, and then they're going to send missiles here on Israel again. So people are already kind of anxious. Like the headlines is Iran going to attack Israel if America attacks Iran? So people are already stocking up and getting ready. Where it's not the first time. I am recording right now in the bomb shelter. I'm at my in-laws' house, so this is the room that I get to record in when I'm here. But I asked my mother-in-law, maybe like you go on a vacation or something, and she's like, no, but what happens like fly abroad? She says, what happens if they close the airspace again and then we can't get back? I said, so you spend another 2 weeks on vacation. It's not that bad. She's retired. She's like, no. So we're getting ready. People are getting ready mentally. And so again, that could also affect the markets if something like that happens. And I'm sharing this with you because this is the talk on the ground, right? This is the talk between the people here. This is the talk on the news here that something could happen. It's Trump. Trump has a lot of power right now, but we'll see what happens with that. Yeah, hopefully nothing happens. SEC drops lawsuit against Gemini. The SEC has finally dismissed its lawsuit against Gemini with prejudice, meaning it can't be refiled. This dismissal came after all investors in its lending program recovered their assets in full. So this was something that was coming from the crash near FTX, right? When FTX was imploding there, they had issues. I thought like most of the cases were dismissed by the SEC. So apparently there were still a few cases. And we know Gemini has been partnering with XRP. They offer that XRP credit card, if I remember correctly. I had a talk with them in Singapore when I was there, and it was interesting. And so now they're free of this, and they're probably going to IPO in the future, it seems like. So will be interesting to see what Gemini does here with XRP and with Ripple in the future. That would be very interesting. GameStop could be selling its entire Bitcoin treasury? Question mark. If you've been watching the channel for a while, part of my fear or my concern, right? I don't want to use fear ever in the crypto market because I leave fear for the missiles, right? That's what I decided. With that, we can fear from, crypto issues. I'm concerned. Okay. GameStop, one of my concerns was that these companies that were adding XRP, Bitcoin to their treasury, to their company balance sheet, that the first sign of pullback, right, that they would start unloading the assets, right? When everything's going up, everything's looking good, it seems like a good idea. But when your company is short for cash or the value of the asset is going down and you have your board of directors and you have your expenses and you have your bottom line, then they could potentially flip and start selling the assets and putting even more pressure on the crypto market. So it seems that GameStop has just transferred all the 4,700 Bitcoin to Coinbase Prime, a platform typically used for institutional selling. The firm bought the coin in May last year for $500 million at an average price of 107.9. Holdings peaked at 590 when Bitcoin hit its all-time high. With Bitcoin at 89,000, a sale would imply unrealized loss exceeding of 81 million. At its height, GameStop ranked amongst the 25 largest Bitcoin holders globally. So this could also, be an issue right here, right now. Bitcoin ran all the way up to 97,000 and then pulled back. So this is also creating a situation. It's very, very weird action, right? Because we had that, sell signal here on the 1348 EMA. Then we had the buy signal and looked like, okay, we're going for a V-shaped recovery here, a U-shaped recovery. And then January 15th, where Coinbase pulling out of the Clarity Act kind of messed things up. So this is, again, another reminder that technical analysis and indicators and yeah, those two. um, they can be a very, very important tool, but sometimes you'll have a quote unquote, even though it's like you can call it a black swan event, an event that flips the switch. So even though it looks like, oh, it broke out, right? Same thing with XRP, or like, because XRP broke out of the trend, right? It broke out here, it crossed over on the 1348 EMA. It looked like, oh, we're going to, and then they talked about it on CNBC. And since then, XRP has been, lost all of its 20% gain that it had there on the year, and is down that whole 20% in the last 19 days. So sometimes the technical analysis looks good. We got a breakout, right? We have the 1348 crossing. The only concerns right there was that we were at the top of the stochastic RSI. So you see, we have contradicting kind of values. If we were at the bottom or in the middle, that would have been better. But those things happen. And then we had the event, and furthermore, right, even though it looked like, okay, we're coming back here, we were at 218, then we had January 15th, and we had that, sell-off since then. So you have to be very careful. Indicators and things like that are very, very good. But then you have an event, you have something that happens, you have suddenly selling pressure, even though you have good momentum, and the whole crypto market decides to, go to the other direction. And then you can get caught, with your pants down a little bit. So you have to be very careful with that, and remember that. And some people are saying, well, this is the real reason why the crypto market, why Bitcoin is not moving. It's the fear of quantum computing, because it's the biggest question mark. We've talked about this in the past, that uncertainty, question marks, they really hamper price action, right? Because when it's something, an asset is uncertain, you don't know what's going to happen, and there's no momentum. Like, okay, silver, ended up finishing at 103, 267 last night. There's a lot of uncertainty with silver. There's a lot of uncertainty geopolitically. What's going to happen if everything gets solved? Does this like sell off? There's all these things that could potentially happen, but there's momentum, there's hype, right? And so it continues to fuel it. It continues to go up. But when you have an asset that there's uncertainty, but there's no hype, there's no momentum, then it just kind of sideways movement. There's a bad announcement, sells off. Good announcement doesn't even hurt it, bring a dent, right? Because there's no momentum and there's uncertainty. So this is interesting and important. And we talked about why Coinbase started its initiative to fight against quantum computing. Ron says here, it's not a narrative and it's not a future, maybe a real risk that institutions don't have an answer for. If you look at the chart below, you can see how crypto risk appetite stalled exactly in December 2024 when Google unveiled its Willow chip while other markets kept moving. This kind of divergence, usually it's about cycles that happen when capital starts stepping away from tail risk. Earlier this year, Christopher Wood, one of the most followed institutional strategists, removed Bitcoin entirely from his model portfolio, not a trim, but a full exit, and replaced it completely with gold. The reason wasn't macro, it was concern around quantum computing and long-term cryptography security. Until this question mark is resolved, big money stays cautious. Okay. Now, if you look here, he's looking at total market excluding the top 10, and actually December of 2024 was the peak there. But if we look at the total market, so not excluding the top 10, because Bitcoin, rallied into the October, right? So that was not the peak, right? So he was looking here at this area here, if you exclude the top 10, so you exclude Ripple and Ethereum and Bitcoin, right? Because they all ran into the end of 2025, Ethereum significantly, right? So to take out, right, Ethereum right here and say, okay, well, Ethereum dropped, yes, in those 4 months, and there was all the fear that happening. And the rest of the crypto market, it's interesting that was the peak, right? So it sold off into April, and when it came back, many assets outside of the top 10, so it's talking about meme coins, and it's talking about other crypto projects that were not top 10. So, it could be like Chainlink or Sui, Avalanche, and others, and meme coins as well. Dots, they didn't have the same veracity, right, that other assets had. For example, I was looking right here on Dot, right? It went from 5 and now it's at 1, and it never had really a comeback. So there was a lot of assets that had that sell-off here and did not. This one did run up a mantle, but there's all kinds of other assets that maybe did not and had that peak there, right? So So it will be very interesting to see what happens here in the next coming few months with potential things that could happen, the Clarity Act, maybe geopolitical things cool off a little bit, maybe the Fed, we get a new Fed chairman announcement, and liquidity starts coming back, maybe precious metals start pulling back a little bit and money starts circulating into crypto. A lot of things could happen. Again, I'm not a prophet. I don't know exactly how this is going to play out. Same way I didn't know how 2025 was going to play out. I don't know how 2026 is going to play out. But my long-term theories have not changed. I'm looking 5-10 years down the line, not 1 month, 2 months down the line, with my long-term investing. With my short-term investing, again, if there's momentum, if there's opportunities, I'm there. If not, then I'm not there. But if there is, I'm there. Okay. So, and there's always opportunities. Might not be every day, but every week there's an opportunity. So it's our job to try to find what that opportunity is. As always, again, not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence before you decide to invest. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Check out the links in the description down below. Don't forget to drop a comment, 8 for infinity and beyond. And the easiest thing to do to support the channel is to just smash that like button. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. And like I always say, let's make a lot of money.